Hi, I'm Desi Serna, author of Fretboard Theory, Guitar Theory for Dummies, and Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies. In this free guitar lesson, I'm going to show you how to play a few parts from the song Hold On Loosely by 38 Special. This song is a great example of using some chord shapes and inversions derived from the guitar cage system. This lesson is suitable for intermediate level players on up who are already familiar with standard bar chord shapes and rhythm guitar technique. You can follow along with free tab. Just go to the link in the video description. To get my sound for this song, I'm using a Paul Reed Smith DGT guitar. I'm using the back bridge humbucker. I'm plugged into a Fender Pro Junior amplifier. I've got it set at the volume at 4, and I've got natural overdrive from the amp. I'm not running any pedals. But I'm not using the speaker on the amp. I actually have it plugged into this Rivera Silent Sister isolation cabinet, which has a 12-inch Celestion Vintage 30 speaker in it. And then I just have I'm adding some reverb at my soundboard. So here is my sound. All right, let's get started. Make sure you have the tab in front of you. I've got it in front of me here. I'll be referring to it throughout this lesson. So this song is based in the key of E. It's using a little bit of the E major scale and some E mixolydian mode. There's a little bit of modal interchange at play. I'll talk about that a little bit. But you want to think about E here at the 7th fret of the 5th string as your primary pitch, and think about an E power chord as well. But this song does have a couple of pickup notes. So you've got an incomplete measure before measure 1. Where you play on the and of beat 3, and then you play on beat 4 and the and of 4. So let's talk about that pickup measure first. You're playing a B power chord, an A power chord, and then you're going to an E. So if you think about guitar chord progressions and playing by numbers, that's 5, 4, 1. So just a couple of pickup notes. They come in on the and of 3, and they sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, I left the last one out. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, then that takes you into measure 1. So let's start there. You're going to be using some palm muting. That's what PM stands for in the tab. So just roll your palm up on the strings here, and so that instead of everything ringing, you get this sound. All right, so measure 1 sounds like this. So you're basically palm muting on that tonic pitch E, and then on the and of 3, you hit the power chord shape. That's on the and of beat 3, so we got some syncopation here. And then on the and of beat 4, you play this shape, fret 6 and fret 9. And let me explain where this comes from. This is called a B/D sharp, and it actually comes from an E form bar chord, B, right here at the 7th fret of the E string. So here's a B major, and B major is made up of the notes B, D sharp, and F sharp. Here they are again in the next register, B, D sharp, and F sharp. So this is kind of a standard bar chord shape that works really well on the guitar. But it's important to realize that this D sharp here is still related to the chord and could be used. So for example, you could play the root B, and you could play this D sharp here if you want to play some type of B chord. You could play B, D sharp. You could play B in the next register up here. Or you could leave the B out, and you could play just its 3rd D sharp and its root. And that's actually where this shape comes from here. This is a type of inversion, which means you have something other than the root in the bass position here. So you'd call this B/D sharp. You don't have the 3rd, so it's not a complete major triad, but you do have the root in the 3rd, and that's enough to create that major chord tonality. So when you play this change, it's kind of like going from E to B, like this. But you're playing an inversion of the B. Like that. And then what you're going to do is the same type of change, but everything's just going to be pushed down a whole step. So you're going to go from D to an A/C sharp. That's its third, like this. Let me do that again. Let me back up to measure 1. And you end up playing the power chord on kind of the before you leave the chord, and then right as you hit the next chord. So. And then you're just palm muting some eighth notes in between. And so this chord change is really, these chord changes are really like going E, B, D, A. But by playing some inversions of those chords along the 6th string, you end up getting some chromatic voice leading. You get this bass line that goes. So it's just a clever way to put chord shapes together there to get some really nice movement. And let me explain why we have 4 major chords, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, I've studied some theory, or maybe you've gone through my course and you're like, I understand how the E major scale would have E, A, and B in it. That's 1, 4, 5, but where does the D come from? Well, the D actually would come from E Mixolydian mode. So if you think about playing in the A major scale and centering your playing on the 5th degree E, creating E Mixolydian mode, then you would have the chords E, D, and A, right? So this song here, Hold On Loosely, is using a concept called modal mixture or modal interchange, where you take some parallel scales, like an E major scale and an E Mixolydian scale, and you draw chords from both of them, or you borrow chords from both of them. That's another term that's used in music. But it's all considered to be in the key of E, because everything starts and ends on E. So if you wanted to number this musically, you would call this chord 1. That's chord 5. You'd call this a flat 7 because of its relationship to 1. And this is 4. And that's true even when you're playing the inversion. So this is 1, 5, flat 7, 4. So one more time, let me play through these chord changes with the pickup notes, and then those pickup notes are played again at the end and lead you into the repeat. So 1, 2, 3. And you repeat. And so on. Now, if you take a look at the verse in measure 5, you have the very same chord changes. Nothing is new here except in measure 8. At the very end, things end a little bit differently to turn you back around to repeat in the verse. So let me start with, well, let me see if I can just play measure 8 for you. So it's like this. It's... Let me play from measure 5 through measure 8. Let me speed this up a little bit too. So. Then it repeats. Well, that actually concludes what I wanted to cover from this song. I chose this song as a lesson just because it really illustrates some of the different types of chord shapes you can use from the cage system that I teach in my theory courses. It's a great example of thinking outside of the box a little bit, using some standard power chords, but then using some of these unique inversions just to create different chord voicings and a different sound. And then in addition to that, you have some of this modal interchange. So you're combining 4 different major chords, and you've got this neat chromatic voice leading in between. So These are all music theory concepts that I, of course, teach in my courses, and I reference this song in them, and I just wanted to have an opportunity here just to actually walk you through these parts so that you could see them. And the band 38 Special is apparently pretty fond of these inversions here like this because they use them in several songs, including the song Caught Up in You. I've got a lesson on YouTube for that song as well, so you might want to take a look at that one too. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this free guitar lesson. If you would like to learn more about music theory for guitar, including guitar scales, chords, progressions, modes, the cage system, modal interchange, keys, key changes, and more, then go to my website at guitar-music-theory.com. That's guitar music theory with dashes in between the words. When you get there, you can sign up to join my email list, you can receive some free materials, and you can preview my full theory courses that I offer. Well, thanks for watching. Please click like on this video and leave me some positive comments.